Hey guys, so just want to let you guys know before we get into this fan-made species, I want to let you guys know that this is all based on some lore and a species of a warrior culture that was very interesting that I came up with in several days. So, and just enjoy the video and we'll see what we can get from here. So, enjoy. The Vol'jians are a warrior culture of people that are dedicated to one thing and one thing only: war and protection of their planets and their homeland. The Vol'jians were a technologically superior race, much like any other unknown species from the unknown regions, like the Chiss, the CC Rook, or any other species in the unknown regions. Their homeworld was Melkar, which is very a beautiful world. It's described as almost as beauty as life itself. Beautiful homeworld. Imagine, like from this image that you see right here as an example. But their homeworld is definitely beautiful by nature, by any chance. Of course, they live in the unknown regions. No surprise there. Facing many dangers, many threats. They were just like all other species, like the Chiss. Very overprotective, very isolationist point of view. To begin their history, we have to go back during their ancient times when they were divided. Their people were basically divided between city-states, like how ancient Greek city-states were. Very divided. But of course, they did unite over time, and they became a true, powerful civilization, technologically as well as culturally. They have a reputation as fierce warriors and have warrior kings and emperors over time. They began to build cities rapidly during their golden age of growth. They worship only one god, and that one god is Zuta, and they believe him to be the warrior god, or god of war, so to speak, as a warrior god king, and they worship him through battle and conquest, as they saw fit with the god of war himself. And during 4,000 to 643, something-ish, BBY, their technology and their expansion grow rapidly. This was like their golden age, when they began to expand both culturally and militarily and economically, as speaking. And they truly were expanding upon military technology as the species grew and grew more and more powerful over the years. They truly did felt like the unknown regions was their home, their territory. They felt like they have a responsibility to protect their own people and develop this isolationist point of view for many centuries, and even much similar to the Chiss in a way, very similarly in that idea of that prospect. They also expanded upon their fleets, which is no surprise there. Expanding upon the fleets, the military, gathering powerful technology to use in their future wars to come. And they expanded across other worlds too at this time, and becoming very powerful in their own right. But unfortunately, like many other great empires, they fell under civil war. And 3,378 to 3,800 BBY, the Vol'jians got involved in the civil war, which lasted for so many decades until that end of that year of that civil war, when their culture and their species was broken and exhausted completely, wasting valuable resources in the planet. And many of the colony worlds that they once controlled broke free and forged their own independent colonies, which was pretty much the end of the golden age of the Vol'jians. And their golden age wouldn't last until another century, including many of their ancient cities that they were so proudly built upon were all gone or erased, or they were no longer existent or inhabited enough that they could not return to those ancient cities ever again. This would be a stagnation of decay over time until the rise of the Rakata, when they came across their homeworld. Of course, the Rakata are also an unknown species within the unknown regions. or a species from the unknown regions, that is. And they've been growing their empire pretty rapidly in expansion. And the Rakata came to the Vol'jians too, and they enslaved them like they did with many other species in the galaxy. They enslaved them and turned them into slaves. This Rakatan force built its own dynasty within the Vol'jian, former Vol'jian Empire, under their first overlord, who would rule the Vol'jian people for centuries. This overlord basically made the Vol'jians look inferior to many other species that the Rakata took, of course, and across the galaxy as a mindset to show Rakatan superiority as well as technology as well. However, this did not go out so well, and the overlord did die many centuries later. So, at this time, the overlord, as usual, did place the Vol'jians into concentration camps, or, well, simply slave labor workforces. This did not go well for the Vol'jians, who always saw themselves as independent, and they see themselves as superior to everyone else, including the Rakata. Two of these species, however, did respect each other warrior culturally, but not respecting each other in terms of... Of course, the Vol'jians did rebel against their Rakatan masters for almost decades or so for over time, because this hatred grew so much on the Rakatans, how they treated the Vol'jians like slaves instead of equals, turned the Vol'jians' anger directly towards them. This first rebellion lasted for decades, until finally the rebellion was crushed and the Rakatans treated them so badly over the course of many decades later. But of course, those decades later, the Second Vol'jian Civil War would start happening. Of course, the Vol'jian Empire was decaying over time, and many, many years later, in 2500 and 200 BBY, finally, when the Vol'jian Empire does fall apart. But what's interesting about the Second Vol'jian Rebellion is that the Vol'jians did not really give up. They basically were a warrior culture. As many warrior cultures do, they don't break, they don't give up. This rebellion basically succeeded finally in kicking the Rakata out of their homeworld with brutal efficiency. And of course, the Vol'jian Empire did fall apart, as we all know from the lore, as well as many others things and materials in Star Wars universe. The Rakata did fall apart, and they retreated back to Leon, their homeworld, where basically the Rakatan society could not be rebuilt or whatnot, and they lost their technology and so on and so forth. And so what like many other great civilizations, even empires rise and fall, and many empires would go out and take that empire's place. As we all know from the Rakatans, they could never fully recover after the loss of their empire for many centuries to come. Finally, with the Rakata out of their home system, the Vol'jians finally reclaimed their empire. This is the Second Vol'jian Empire, and they retook all of their colony worlds that was lost during the First Vol'jian Empire. This second empire was more successful than its predecessor and would continue on for so many centuries and millennia to come. They freed two new species. They went to the planet of Tiska when they freed another civilization that was very highly advanced. And this species was known as the Vol'jians. They were another species of bugs, but they were very intelligent species of bugs. They were actually used by the Vol'jians as diplomats, or used them to get involved in galactic affairs, because the Vol'jians were not really good diplomatically, and they were not really good at socializing with people. So they used the Vol'jians as the diplomatic force. And the Vol'jians were a very peaceful race, and we'll get into their own video in time very soon. But the Vol'jians were also very peaceful people, especially when the Rakatans took them over. Now, Sula was the homeworld of the Romulans, and they were another warrior culture species, just like the Vol'jians. They too also rebelled against their former masters in decades, and don't worry, they'll have their own separate video on why they rebelled against their former masters. But what is very interesting about this species too is that they too were highly technologically advanced, and vastly warrior-like, like many other species. They too joined the Vol'jian Empire as a result. So the Vol'jians and two of their allied species did join together into this empire, which expanded over time. And so they it was very similar to how the Chiss were. They were very isolationist point of view, and they would play a large role in galactic politics, including later on years during the Clone Wars, the Galactic Civil War, and many other time periods. This species would also continue to live for thousands of years until to the Yuuzhan Vong War and many other wars. But what is very interesting about the Vol'jians that they were not really keen on breaking down because they believe that they have a bigger part and role in the galaxy like many other species do, and they surely do believe that independence and freedom as well as dominating was the only way to go forward. And that tells the end. And so basically that's the end of the whole story. Now, thank you guys for at least getting involved in this history or this first part of the story with the Vol'jians. There will be a second part, but since I have school, it's going to be very busy for me to actually get these videos out. But don't worry, I always will keep my promises to many of my viewers, even though I'm not that big of a YouTuber. But anyways, subscribe and join, and I'll see you guys later in the next video when it comes out at the right time. Enjoy.